Every subject is afraid of something in those first minutes. But Borte was the first one afraid of the right thing for entirely the wrong reason.
Welcome to Displaced. I'm your host, Mara Saleh, and there is Dr. Henrik Voss, whose ability to locate the precise nerve in a case and press on it continues to impress and unsettle me equally. Henrik, today's file is number 009, The Wrong Animal. Our subject is a woman who knew how to read every landscape she had ever encountered, until she encountered one that couldn't be read at all.
Borte, female, Mongol, 31 years old, wife of a mid-ranking herder on the eastern steppe. Approximately 1180 AD, a full generation before the great unification under Genghis Khan. Her world was the steppe, grassland to every horizon, a landscape she had been reading since childhood.
And you put her in?
Shinjuku, Tokyo. Peak evening rush hour, 11 minutes.
From one of the emptiest landscapes on Earth to one of the most densely populated urban environments in human history.
The contrast was deliberate. This case was designed to observe a specific type of environmental displacement, not just temporal, but sensory. Someone whose entire skill set for navigating the world had been built for conditions that shared almost nothing with where she arrived.
What happened first?
The noise arrived before anything visual registered. That is the thing I want people to understand about Shinjuku at evening rush. It is not loud in the way that a single loud thing is loud. It has no source. It comes from everywhere simultaneously. Every sound Borte had ever heard in her life had a point of origin she could locate and identify. An animal, a person, a weather event, a fire. The noise of that street had no origin. It simply existed surrounding her with no direction and no cause she could trace.
That must have been... I don't even have a word for it.
She did not have one either. I watched her try to apply every cognitive tool she possessed to a situation none of those tools were built for. She found a wall immediately and put her back to it. Exactly the right response on the steppe, where you want your back protected and your field of view open. Then, she began scanning for threats, looking for predators, escape routes, high ground. The instincts were sound. None of them applied.
The crowd alone must have been overwhelming.
The crowd was too dense for individual tracking. On the steppe you read individuals, their movement, their intent. The specific way a person or animal is oriented tells you what they are about to do. In Shinjuku, at rush hour, the crowd moves as a single organism and individual tracking becomes meaningless. The light was wrong. Too much of it, from too many angles at once. There were no shadows that made directional sense. Her entire spatial vocabulary was useless.
She looked terrified from everything you're describing.
Completely. And she believed she was afraid of the environment. The noise, the density, the scale. She was attributing her fear to those things because those were the visible, external causes. That is the misdirection at the center of this case. It took me some time, watching the observation data, to locate where the fear was actually coming from.
It wasn't the noise. It wasn't the crowd.
Those were the location of the problem, not the problem itself. She was afraid because she could not feel the direction of home.
Explain that.
On the steppe, she always knows. Not by conscious navigation, not by landmarks or logic or calculation, by something bodily and pre-conscious. The felt sense of where her gear is, where her children are, where north sits in her chest. It is present the way your own heartbeat is present, not noticed until it stops. She had carried that sense every moment of her life. It was the most constant thing she possessed.
And in Shinjuku?
Gone. For the first time in her life, she did not know which direction home was. Not because she was lost in any navigational sense. She had no navigational tools that applied here anyway. But the felt knowledge, the bodily certainty, it was simply absent. As if someone had removed a sense she had never known she was using until it was no longer there.
That's a different kind of terror entirely. It's not fear of what's outside you, it's fear of what's no longer inside you.
Precisely. The city, the noise, the crowd, those were just the place this happened. What she was actually afraid of was the possibility that she might be the kind of person who can be separated from the knowledge of where home is. That the thing she had believed was fundamental to who she was could simply be switched off by the wrong location.
An existential fear wearing the costume of a practical one.
Yes, which is why it took extended observation to find. The surface fear was obvious and entirely legible. The real fear was underneath it, quiet and considerably more serious.
How did the 11 minutes end?
She closed her eyes for the last 2 minutes, not to block out the environment. I want to be clear about that. She was not retreating from the noise or the crowd. She was reaching inward, trying to feel for the thing that wasn't there. The equipment ran its duration. She was returned mid-search, eyes closed, still looking.
Did she find it before the equipment ran?
No.
And when she went back to the step, did it come back?
The displacement returned her to her own time and place. The felt sense returned with the environment, but she now knew it could be taken. That knowledge does not leave a person. You cannot unknow that something you believed was permanent is actually conditional.
What happened to her in the years after?
She never spoke of the episode to anyone, as far as records allow. But her eldest son noted in a later account that his mother had a habit in her final years. She would stand outside the ger at night and face north for a long time before coming back inside. He thought it was prayer. He was not entirely wrong.
She was checking every night, making sure the direction was still there.
For years. Until she no longer needed to. Or perhaps until she simply accepted that needing to check was now part of who she was.
Henrik, I keep asking this question and I keep not receiving a satisfying answer, which I suspect is itself the answer. Was this right? 11 minutes of a fear that specific, that deep. Was it justified?
She returned to her children. The step was there. Her life continued. The damage, if we are calling it damage, was 11 minutes of a particular absence, and then a lifetime of the knowledge that the absence was possible. Whether that knowledge constitutes harm, I genuinely cannot adjudicate that from the outside. I am not her. I cannot feel what it cost her to stand north-facing in the dark every night for however many years she did it.
You're asking whether the observer can judge the cost of what they caused.
I am saying the observer probably cannot. Not fully. And I am aware that my inability to fully judge it does not reduce my responsibility for it. These two things are both true at the same time, and I have learned to sit with that, rather than trying to resolve it in one direction or the other.
That's either wisdom or a very refined form of avoidance.
Most wisdom is, in my experience. Home is not a place. It is a direction you carry in your body, and some losses you only discover when you suddenly can't find it.